I'm Tommy Byrne, and this is The Skinny.
From the Fatheadz Eyewear Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Brought to you by Toyota and General Tire. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota.
Once again, welcome back to The Skinny. Ken Stout here, ready to have a great time. My buddy Rico Elmore sitting right alongside. Michael Young back there running the controls. So if you can see us and we're clear, give him props. If we're a little fuzzy, well, that's Michael.
That's your medication.
Everything looks fuzzy. We've got a great friend of mine in here today, and I had the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago. He's probably the fastest driver you've never heard of. There's a number of drivers that certainly know who he is. He certainly made a name for himself in his heyday for sure, but we're talking about a guy that's good enough to beat Ayrton Senna. Talking about a guy that ran quicker in a championship winning or at least a race winning Formula One McLaren car. We're talking about one of the best race car drivers in the history of race car drivers that got just that close.
But no cigar.
But could not get there. Tommy Byrne, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Your story, as I mentioned before, I had a pleasure of meeting you back up mid-Ohio, I guess, somewhere along the way. And my son Robert was racing.
I think we were doing something in, was it Detroit?
Detroit.
Yeah, me and you stood out there watching.
Were you driving one of the Nissans?
I wasn't driving. I was driver coaching, and me and you were watching your son drive around in a really slow.
Oh, that's right, because you said the real drivers will show up here in the rain. Yeah, we had a river running through the park.
A real slow Nissan.
Yeah.
At the time, I think what it was.
But he did good because of the rain. It was an equaler, so we picked up a few spots.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So, and we became buddies, and of course, had a chance to read your book in the meantime. And he has a book out. It's called Crash and Burn. It is an absolute worthwhile read.
I think it's Crashed and Burned, isn't it?
Crash and Burned?
Crashed and Burned.
I don't know. You wrote it.
Well, the book is Crashed and Burned, Byrned, and the documentary is Crash and Burn, Burn. So I get confused.
You know what? I was looking for that.
Well,
I was looking for it. I was spelling your name.
I was doing the same thing. I was spelling the name.
Yeah, exactly.
You would think that's how they would have done it.
That documentary was awesome.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
I thought they would have done it that way too, but hey,
I think it's $3.99 on Amazon Prime. You get a kick of that?
I'm supposed to get a kick of it, but
I did it last night.
I never
seen
nothing.
Don't.
It was the Irish guy that did the movie for me. He said,
if
Tommy,
you don't get that 50 cents, let us know.
He goes, Tommy, you'll probably never get a penny off this.
Get your pen ready.
There's your first marker.
There's your first edit.
Sorry. Sorry about the beeps.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael loves
no more
that.
beepings.
Yeah, but so watching the documentary, it's good. It's very good, very entertaining. But it doesn't go into the detail clearly because of the time constraints that the book goes into.
Well, the book I actually wrote the book myself with Mark Hughes, and I started off writing it by hand because I couldn't type at the time years ago, and then I found a writer, Mark Hughes, who's the Formula One correspondent, and then I'd write it by hand. I'd send it to him, and then he would pick and choose what he was going to use, and so they are my words. And then when I started doing the documentary with the Irish guys, really nice guys, they were trying to get me to tell the same story. But when I was doing the book, I was either high or drinking. I just had to get that right, mood.
Mix.
I was on an airplane or something in first class, and I'd feel, oh yeah, I'll start. That's how I did the book. And but so it was very hard to do the same thing with the movie. So I think the movie's pretty doom and gloom. Because I may not have made it all the way to the top money-wise, but I was always happy.
You were always happy.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because you certainly do not get that feel exactly like as you say from the documentary. It's like, it's like your entire life slipped away.
It's like Angela's Ashes, I don't know if you ever watched that one, but that was a very depressing Irish movie as well. So no, that's actually not me. I'm usually more happy, but I watched it once. I couldn't watch it after that, but a lot of people like it. It's a documentary.
The book is very entertaining. Can they get that on Amazon?
The book is actually on my website. Crash or Burn Driver Development.
How do you spell that?
It's actually crasherburn.com.
B-U-R-N?
B-Y-R-N-E.
Okay.
All right. Clarification.
3 different spellings for 3 different things.
I'm Irish.
I mean, I did. So I watched it. You know, I knew who you were, and much respect. I mean, it just where you came from. You know, I've worked to get anything I've ever had. My family was hard workers, you know, but we didn't have the golden pot at the end of the rainbow. So it took all of us that made it to make it that way. But you know, it's got to be difficult. I mean, and you said you watched it one time, which I totally get.
And I think I read my book once too. I can't believe I wrote what I wrote.
Yeah. I'm sure that's a good time in itself. But yeah, just some of the stuff in the documentary and the highest of the highs and definitely some lowest of the lows. So it's that's a tough gig. Much respect for being able to go through it. There's some people that can't take themselves back through, you know, the stuff and I watch a lot of different music stuff and Johnny Cash's deal was much of the same, where he went back to where his family, the homestead, and pretty wild. So
I guess the best way to describe you is just a scrapper from Ireland. I mean, just a little dude from a little town.
Yeah.
Family with you know, modest means at best, and your first race car, you literally got your mom to do a second mortgage or a loan on her house, or she stood behind you.
I don't know what the first one was 1,250 pounds or punts at the time is what you call it. It was 1,250, and I think that wasn't that hard to get. The second one was 4,500. Yes, I walked with her to the bank. And there's 5 other kids involved. It's not just me. I was just better at, you know, getting what I wanted. So I got her to the bank, and I told her what to say, and she lied to him and told him that we were building an extension on the house for my sister who was pregnant and had to move in, you know, and get married. And that's what she did. We got the money.
Think if we could do that today with the bank.
Yeah, probably not going to happen.
Got a hat on, and they're like, we don't care. Tell them they're going to have to live, you know.
And that was the easy part of the gig. Yeah. I mean, once you got the race car, now you had to perform, and it was just you.
Oh, yeah, I crashed the first. I could write a book on just the first 2 years of me trying to get something. I absolutely no idea what we were doing. I had no car. I had no trailer. I had a lot of friends. I borrowed. Everybody helped me out. Everybody, because I said, hey, I'm going to be a driver. I was going to be a welder in America. That was my goal. When I was 15 years of age, I was serving my time as an apprentice welder. And I used to watch a lot of John Wayne movies at Christmas time, because we only had 3 channels back in Ireland. And John Wayne was always on the holidays. So for some reason, I always wanted to come to America. So I had my mind made up I was going to come to America as a welder. And a friend of mine went over, and he was making fortunes, and, you know, so I said, yeah, that's what I'll do. And I wanted to be a mechanic, welder mechanic. It's very simple. I was very happy with my life. I was working on cars since I was tiny. I just loved working on cars. And then my friend went to a school in Ireland. There's only one track in Ireland. And he paid 15 punts for 15 laps. And in the race car. And Grand Prix just came out. I just watched it a while before that. And I seen the cars parked outside our local hotel. And I said, I had no license, driving license. So I said, did I ask you for a license? He goes, nope. So I got a lift up there, up to Mondello. It was raining. I did 15 laps, and I spun 7 times out of the 15 in the rain. And that was it. When I was finished, at the end of it, wasn't that long. Then I decided I was going to be a race car driver instead of a mechanic welder. And that was it. I just full focus from that moment on. And for some other reason, I just thought that I was the best driver in the world. Don't ask me where it came from. I have no idea. My mom didn't start driving until she was 40. And my dad never drove at all. So I have no idea where the talent came from or where anything came from. But that's what happened with me. And I didn't have a hero. So I never had any heroes in racing because I wasn't going to be a race car driver. I didn't watch it. And, I just started all this in 1976. And which didn't help me when I went driving because everybody says, so who's your hero, and I go, me. So I said,
I think that's modest.
probably
I like it.
probably a lot of stuff that I if you there's other ways of going about it, I guess, but my biggest problem is I'm pretty honest, and I have a very hard time not telling the truth.
Well, I think if a lot of people will take that and they'll put a twist on it that he was cocky, he was arrogant, but knowing you, I only know you mildly, if you will, but knowing you and your personality, I could see you saying, "I'm my hero" with a chuckle in a lighthearted way, not in a cocky, arrogant like I am the man, not that way.
Like
so
you
to have a
say
little
it,
bit of
Stout.
fun with yourself and
I don't maybe now, but maybe at the time I actually did. I was my hero.
yeah.
But here's the thing. I mean, the first part of it is believing in yourself, right? That's like I started the eyewear company. I knew how to put them on.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't know anything past that.
I mean, if a team manager comes to you and wants to give you a job, which doesn't happen that often in racing, and he says, "So, Tommy, how do you think? Do you think you're a pretty good driver?" And if I answered, "Well, I think I'm not bad. And I think I might get better." So
Right.
what? So he's going to hire you? Or then he said, "You're a pretty good driver." Yeah, best driver in the world. And then you're.
Yeah.
There you go again. I was going to say a worse word than that.
Yeah.
And so you're doomed if you do or if you don't. So yeah, definitely.
I think the good guys do answer that way in a firm
But
manner.
of course they do now more than ever,
Yes.
right? And now, now
Well,
you
everybody
get,
knows the rules now.
right. But now, I mean, you get these drivers out there that start talking like that. Everybody's like, yeah, I like his attitude. Then they're like, oh, what is he talking about? That's kind of what I was watching this, and I was like, well, that's how they talk all the time now. I mean, and a lot worse and a lot further. So, but it's interesting seeing how that progression and just people didn't have the temperament for it.
When was the last time somebody called you 1.5 feet?
Last 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somebody just was walking by and just shouted it out because not that many people know the 1.5 foot story. Foot and a half is when I was an apprentice welder. I was 15 years of age, and the guy I was working for, because I was really small. I mean, I'm small now, but I was small. At 15, I didn't spread till I was like 17 or 18. So I went from like 4 foot to 5'6" or whatever. But so he started calling me 1.5 foot, and I was never there. I was never where I was supposed to be. I was always off screwing around or doing something or just doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. And all he was just screaming out, 1.5 foot, 1.5 foot. And so that was my nickname at that time, was 1.5 foot.
We'll take a quick break on that note, and we'll be right back with more from Tommy Byrne.
This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by General Tire. It's more than just a slogan. Anywhere is possible with General Tire. General Tire's Grabber X3 mud terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. Make your anywhere possible by visiting GeneralTire.com today.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We have Tommy Byrne in the studio with us here, and great to have him with us. The story is second to none. Still heavily involved, by the way, in the industry. You'll see him from time to time. I happen to bump into him at the 24 Hours of Daytona. It was good to see you down there. As we're talking about your story, working your way up through, I got to mention a couple of different things, both in the documentary and in the book. But you were, I mentioned at the top of the show, you were faster than Ayrton Senna, Niki Lauda. And the reason I use those two is because there's some proof there. We can.
Well, not really. The Senna thing, I never got to race against him.
Oh, you didn't? I thought he was a teammate that you raced.
No, he was the same team as me. I was a year ahead of him.
Oh,
he
gotcha.
He was down one.
He was
one
down. He was
class.
down one for me. The only time I ever raced against Ayrton Senna was we did a race in Formula 3 in I think it was 1983. I won the championship the year before, and he won it in the Formula 4 2000. And then I was doing European Formula 3, and he was doing British Formula. We're in the same race together. I qualified sixth. Martin Brundle was second. Senna was first. He crashed off. I finished second. That's it. And then in Macau, he was in a Ralt. I was in Anson, and of course he won the race over there, and I was third. So we never did get the
Never
race
really
again. Not the
battled
way that I wanted to.
together,
The way I wanted
right.
to. And as far as the test, Nicky Lauda wasn't there. I drove Nicky Lauda's car. He was there the week before, and it wasn't exactly dry, so that wouldn't be fair. But Thierry Boutsen was the one that was there. Exactly, I got out of the car. He got out of the car and I got in. So that was the one.
That
and he
one was apples to apples. Yeah.
and that was apples to apples. So you can say what, but again,
Yeah, and so many variables can
I
happen.
can't
in the
tell.
span
I
of a
can't
week.
tell a lie. So Nicky wasn't there, but the car was definitely.
We heard that you raced Senna to his tires on his car, and you won.
No, that's in the book too. But I used to get the cars for all the Brazilians because I worked with Ralph Firm and I drove for Ralph Firm in Van Diemen, and I had friends in London with used car dealerships, so I would get the cars for Ralph to either sell to Brazilian or give to them. So I got one for Senna. His name was Ayrton da Silva at the time, and so I got a car and Ralph gave it to him, and actually Senna never paid for the car, so he never did. So Ralph gave him basically a road car for free, and then when Senna retired at the end of that year, and I drove his car in the Formula Ford Festival, he retired from racing, and he left the car there, and Ralph never got to me about taking it back or selling it or whatever. He just left it there, and I had the same type car, and I got a puncture, so instead of getting the puncture fixed, I would just take it off the car that was sitting there, and so I did that a couple of times. So now it looks like, because my car was a sport model, so on the car sitting there, Senna's car, supposedly Senna's, but not really Senna's because he never paid for it, and he's not coming back anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, so he did come back. He came back without telling anybody, and I was in the office, and he came in. He took one look at his car with all the tires were flat on it and different colors and everything, and he came in and just started screaming and shouting at me, and he just lost his mind.
He knew that it was you.
Yeah, he wanted to beat the shit out of me for fucking borrowing wheels that didn't even belong to him, or cars, tires.
Borrowing.
So he was very angry, and most likely he was angry because when he retired, he was driving Formula Ford 1600. He won 2 championships, but the Formula Ford Festival was the most important race that manufacturer could win, and Ralph was a manufacturer, and he asked me, Tommy, can you? Senna just left me, high and dry. Can you win the race? I just won the 2 Formula 4 2000 championships, the European one and the British one. And I said, sure, with Senna's car and there was a special engine that you used to get for that race. And whoever was leading the championship, minister would give them, it was called Patch, super engine. And everybody that won the festival got the engine. And it was like probably half a second a lap quicker than the other one. So I said, sure, with Senna's car and that engine, no problem. And I did. I won all 4 races and won the festival, and got a free Formula 3 ride the next week for Marlborough. And then the guy I drove for, Murray Taylor, he was so impressed that he got the money for me race by race for the next year. So if Senna didn't retire at that time, I would never have won I finished second the year before in the festival, and it meant nothing. Roberto Moreno won it, and that changed everything. Even after winning 4 championships, I had nothing. I wasn't going anywhere until I won the Formula Ford Festival. And then, boom, that got me Formula 3. And then I did Formula 1 for those couple of races the same time as I was doing Formula 3. So that's the Senna story. That's kind of what happened there. He was pissed. And obviously I won in his car. And the car number was 69.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Is that important?
I don't know how I even said that, but I did. Because I didn't find out till years later. I just somebody sent me a picture of the car, and I'd seen the number, and I didn't know what it was at the time when I was driving it.
I saw the car that you jumped in. Black was that a player's car that you ran in the documentary?
Are you talking about the Formula 1 car?
I think so. Yeah.
The Nicky Lauda car?
Yeah.
It was a Marlboro car. Yeah,
there was a black car, recent, not back.
Oh yeah, that was Jim. This is Aero, my sponsor. Jim McGuire.
Yeah.
That was his Formula 3 car, and he had to paint it like Kimi Räikkönen's Formula 1 car. at the time.
Gotcha.
That was a Formula 3 car at Mid Ohio.
Yeah.
That's when I
cool.
did that.
Cool ride.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just again like
Yeah.
in my documentary, you see me driving my car, and I got out of the car, my Formula 3 car. I was walking because we had to act a little bit, and I'm walking past with my friend going, "Hey, look at that! There's my car over there." Even though we did it 10 times, walk back and forth. He goes, "Oh yeah, look at that." So we walked over and started looking at it, and then the owner goes, "Do you want to drive it?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So then I get into it, and then we drove, and I didn't want to drive it because it was a piece of. Oh, there you go again. So I get into the car, and the cameras are on me, taking a picture of me, and then I drove off in the wrong gear, second gear instead of first, and the owner's going, "I hope he doesn't mess my clutch up." So I took off around the track, and then then the camera pans to me driving around the track at Brands Hatch, and I didn't drive the car at all on the track. I drove the car around the corner, and the guys came running over, the director and the producer and stuff, and give me a bottle of water, and I threw the water in around my head and everything, which was my idea for sweat.
Yeah.
And then I drove right back to where I started from, and then I took my helmet off, and I'm all sweating and everything, going, "Oh wow, that was the best! That was just so much.
You had
That
me.
was so much
That
fun.
was so much fun. I never drove the car at all around.
Yeah. Yeah. You had me, so you did well. It was great acting on that deal.
Yeah.
What was a story where I think you were going to have a test? I think you were having a test. Maybe they had somebody fast inside of the car. Then they told you they were going to make some changes to the car, maybe move the pedals for you or something like that. And I might be getting two different stories confused here, but at some point you decided, I'm not going to drive today. I went to the bar, had a few drinks, and then all of a sudden I got a phone call and they wanted me to come back.
Yeah, that was Dijon. I think it was near Nice, and we had to qualify for the Monaco Formula 3 race. And I raced there before. I finished third and fourth, I think, before in the Formula 3 at Monaco. But for some reason, then there was so many cars, you had to pre-qualify or something like that. So I was driving for Gary Anderson, and who was Anderson, Formula 1. Eddie Jordan designed the Formula 1 car for Eddie, and Stewart, Formula 1 car. So it rained. And it was raining so bad the track was flooded, so it was cancelled. So we all went down to a local French cafe, and me and Gary were behind the counter teaching them how to make real Irish coffees. So we drank a lot of Irish coffees. The whole team was there. It was me and Gary and the mechanics. So we had more than one, probably like 6 or 7, maybe 10. And next thing is we got word that
Somewhere around
the race is back on again. So, it wasn't intentional, but we all had to go back to the track. And I think I started last or something for whatever reason, and I got up to 6, which was good enough to qualify for the race for Monaco. And Gary Anderson said to me, he said, "I have no idea how you drove out there because I couldn't even see you coming," because he was showing me the pit board. And he was so drunk he couldn't see me coming. So yeah, it's just another story. But it's true. That's what happened.
So it's interesting. We were talking about Connor earlier, and one of the things that we asked him when he was
easy.
here.
Be careful.
One of the things we asked him earlier when he was here, or when he was in studio, and I know we've sponsored him for a long time.
Yeah.
Good dude, great guy.
Yeah, good.
He's like. We asked him if there was any era that he could have ran, with IndyCar, what would it have been? He's like, early 2000s.
Yeah.
He's like, these guys, when they would have, they would get down at the track, they would get on a jet. They were in the Bahamas, and he was talking about Schechter and, Dixon back in the day, way before he was married, and a bunch of these other guys, Weldon and all of them, and it was just interesting to hear him talk about it. And I actually met Pastrana through Connor.
Through Connor.
Yeah, and we had sponsored Connor's truck race out at Vegas. Not the one where he tried to plow the wall down or anything, but the other truck race. But it was great, and Travis, just an amazing guy. But Connor, he's one about having fun, and he's
a really nice guy. I'm glad he got himself a deal for this year because I like him.
I think a full year with the same team,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I think he's got a pretty good engineer and a pretty good team around him, with Eddie and those guys. I think he could have an opportunity. And of course, when Pastrana was on, we were, our suite for Fatheadz is in turn 2.
Yes.
And, Connor's leading the race.
Yeah.
We're part of this deal.
It's huge.
We're sitting there, and like everybody in the suite, I'm like, be quiet.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching it on TV so I can keep up and, watch all of it, right?
Yeah.
And I was probably hammered too, but that's beside the point. But I'm sitting there watching it, and this tire comes out of the sky. And I'm like, did you see when when Graham Rahal hit the wall?
Yeah.
The tire blows off, goes flying. Any idea how high that was? I mean, literally
hundreds of feet up in the air.
It was straight up. Connor's driving around, bam, just smokes the front end of it.
That's the look of the Irish. We don't. That's all bull.
Thank you.
The look of the Irish is that I don't think I got much luck. I mean, it's crazy. But going back to the IndyCar with Connor, it's the most competitive series in the world. There's no doubt about it. The whole field sometimes is covered by 1 second. It's just think about it. Every single thing has to go right to get close to the front. And they're all good drivers now. It's not like there's a bunch of wankers.
It is interesting, when the IRL started, and I don't know all the stuff that went on between CART and Indy. How all that split up, and everybody's got their own side of it, but. At the end of the day, the Hallman George family said, this is the way we want to do it. And quite frankly, they had the money to do it the way they wanted to do it, which is generally the way things work. Well, when they first started, I mean, there were some teams that were in there that.
Oh, yeah. Shoot. Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely shouldn't have been out there.
That was the time to win Indy. If you had any chance at all of winning it with a,
Yeah, it was pretty
when it was easy to win, would have been probably around about that time or easier. Right now, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here one more time. We'll be right back with more from Tommy Byrne. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Welcome back to The Skinny. Ken Stout and Rico Elmore sitting alongside, and we have Tommy Byrne, who's joined us here in the studio. Quick side note, that man signed my competition license off.
There you go. Hey,
You're the one.
I'm in Ohio. He was my instructor and went through all the sessions, and he signed her off at the end of the day.
I must say I've been working at Mid-Ohio probably now 1985.
Wow.
Because I was down in Mexico. Well, obviously, we don't have time to go through all of it, but if anybody wants to find out, they're going to have to check out
the documentary
and Crash and Burn.
Yeah, BURN.
BYRNED for the book.
Or BYRNE or Burn.
Yeah.
Just try it both ways. It'll work out.
BURNED. Just think of a way to spell Burn and give her a try, and
You get it.
you'll get something.
You'll get it one way or the other. Okay, now I've lost my train of thought.
Talk to text. It'll come back.
Well, we were going to tell you brought up Mexico, so let's just stay in Mexico.
I was down in Mexico, and I was just, I should have quit 10 years earlier, and got a real job, but you hang in for one more year because, there's always a chance of getting, a couple of $100,000 or maybe even better than that. So I just waited. I just hung on, and because I did Indy Lights, and I won a bunch of races in Indy Lights. I started again when I came to America, and then I was kind of getting to a low ebb, and then I went to Mexico to sell a helmet, and then I ended up meeting some crazy people down there, and I got to drive down there, and I raced down there, and it was sponsored by Quaker State and Yellow Pages. It was called Section Maria, Yellow Pages, and Corona, and so Quaker State, Corona, and Yellow Pages, and I was driving Formula 2 and Formula 3, and I was getting paid cash because I said I needed cash because I didn't trust the Mexicans to pay me because I just didn't. So I was getting $9,999 cash sent to me by FedEx, which is very dangerous. And that was the first time I got it sent to me because I wasn't going to go down there without getting the money. And so that was sent to me the first time, and then after that, I was bringing back 9,999 because they don't check. If it's 10,000, then you have to.
10K sent the flag. So,
Yes, exactly. So if anybody stopped me, they just think it was a drug dealer, but I wasn't. But I was partying a lot down in Mexico, and I met a guy called Orcho. He's in the book, and he helped my team a lot. Great people down there, and they're racing crazy. I mean, they're Formula One. You think politics are bad in Formula One? Mexico's worse. So I was kind of getting a lot of partying, too much partying. Any time of the day, like at 1 o'clock in the day, I could pick my phone up. I had an apartment down there in Zona Rosa. I could pick my phone up at 1 o'clock, call any of 10 people, and just party for the rest of the day, and then maybe into the night. And so in the end, there was a lot of girls involved too, and nakedness and just craziness. And Orcho, my friend, for some reason, just went crazy one night and started shooting at me, and he missed, and I had to hide a couple of girls because they were running around naked, and the guns were out, and they were all hiding behind me. So I then got the gun off him, and I got the bullets out of it, and I give him his gun back. I give him the gun back with no bullets, and then I hid myself in the room. And then next morning, he usually forgot about it. The next day he would forget about his craziness. And then the next day he came at 6 o'clock in the morning knocking on my door looking for the bullets. So I figured, well, there's only one reason he wants the bullets. He wants to try and shoot me again. So I snuck out of there, got a taxi across the other side of Mexico City to my team owner and told him, I said, this guy he's crazy. He's either going to kill me or kill somebody else or kill himself, but I'm probably need to get out of here now. So I left. I went back to Florida, and I talked to Kevin Fish. Actually, got me a job. I said, Kevin, I need to get something going here. He was chief instructor in Mid Ohio. He got me a job there, and I've been there ever since. Sometimes I did 150 days a year. Last year I did like 35, 40, and so I've been at Mid Ohio lots and lots. And the Orcho guy that tried to shoot me, he was dead 5 days later. He drowned in a swimming pool in Mexico, and he was very, very wealthy. And so it was just time to move on,
Man, oh man, some crazy times.
Mm-hmm.
How long time frame wise did you compete down there in Mexico with?
2 years.
2 years. Oh, so there was a fair amount of good times down there.
Oh yeah, 2 years. I only won a couple of races, so it's still just crazy stuff. You still have to have the car. If you haven't got the car, you're not going to win. You have to have good cars because there's decent drivers. Alan Berg was down there, and Rod McLeod, who worked for McLaren years ago. He's a good big driver coach now for RE Challenge. Now it was fairly competitive, like 30, 40,000 people.
Wow!
And every day there's something in the paper, and I was an ex-Formula One driver, so so I could, I didn't have any hard time partying anywhere.
So after that test with McLaren, you knew you had laid down a time, but you didn't get the gig. Was that
I was never going to get a gig. Before I went there, I knew that I had no drive, but I still was going to get to drive the best car in Formula One, and I was definitely telling my old team from Formula One to come and watch me because they were telling me I couldn't drive, and so I said, well, come watch me when I do the McLaren test because that's paid for by Marlboro because I won the British Formula 3 Championship. So the first 3 drivers get a test in the McLaren. That happens every year. So I already ran around Dennis before all this and talked to him. There was no drives, and everybody was signed up. There was nothing available. No matter what I did, wasn't going to make any difference. And a couple of years later, then there was test drives available and everything else. So things opened up and changed. But right at that time, there was nothing. There was nothing happening. Now, I did go pretty quick, and it turns out I didn't have a great car because they didn't give me full gas. And that was Tony Van Dungen. Hi, Tony, if you're listening.
So that was the story that I was talking about, where they said they were going to make some changes, but they slowed the car down.
Well, when I went, everybody goes to McLaren to get fitted like a month before you drive the car. Very professional. Remember, they were probably the number one team, one of the top 4 teams in the world. So we all went and we got fitted at different times. very well done. So whenever Thierry Boutsen got out of the car and I got in to change the pedals for me, and I was 20 years later, I was riding around, I think it was Elkhart Lake, and I met Tony Van Dungen, who was a mechanic that day. Him and Riley and Scott. Mark Scott was the other mechanic. And he said, "Hey, Tommy, how you doing? I haven't seen you for 20 years. How's it going? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm doing this, doing some driver coaching, doing work in Mid-Ohio, whatever the case may be." And he said, "You know, man, you were so fast that day, and you didn't even have the best car." I said, "Well, I had the same car that Thierry Boutsen got out of, and I got into." He goes, "Yeah, but we were told not to give you full throttle when you get into it." I just went, "Wow, why was that?" He goes, "I don't know. Somebody didn't want you to go fast, I guess." And that kind of...
How many years later?
20 years later is when I was writing the book. I started writing the book at this stage. I didn't know. And then we had to get Tony Van Dungen on record to say that, to tell the truth, and he did. And Mark Hughes went to Ron Dennis and asked Ron Dennis why they did that. And they said, well, because that was Nicky Lauda's. So he admitted doing it. He said that was Nicky Lauda's race car, and we didn't want Tommy to crash it. So we give him. So that's why we did that. And Leo Sayer, I was in touch with him, or he got in touch with me years later. He drove the same car the next day, him and Nick Mason from Pink Floyd. So they drove the car the next day, but Ron was worried about me crashing the car, but he wasn't worried about Leo Sayer. And, so it's just, that's when you learn, you'll just learn about when you're a race car driver, you're only around for a short time. Let's say anything from maybe 10 years, we'll say on average. But the teams are around forever. So everybody knows everybody. So you have to be very careful what you say.
Yeah, and it's a small world.
Very.
As big as it is.
Very small.
Man, there's a lot of interconnection for sure.
So that test was, so I didn't have full throttle. And they wouldn't show me the right times either. They gave me a 10.1, and one of my friends was getting me a 9.6. It's just, I didn't think nothing of it because, hey, it's McLaren. They're the best team in the world. I didn't even think about
any games,
anything like that. So I was pretty shocked 20 years later.
Wow.
So even though everything was done, the time I already did was really, really good compared to Thierry Boutsen, who went on, by the way, to do very well in Formula One. And if I had got the real times with the real car, you never know. Somebody might have, at least I would have had to say it, but I will say one thing. I drove one of the worst cars in the grid in Formula One, the Theodore, and 1 month later, I drove one of the best cars in Formula One. So I ended off my Formula One career 4 seconds a lap difference in not qualifying and being on pole for the British Grand Prix. So at least I had something to hang my head on. So I knew that. Hey, at least I knew I could do it, and everybody else has seen it, knew I could have done it.
Best driver in the world.
Well, then I would have said it. Now I'm not saying that.
I love it. I'm in. One of the things that I did see, so Tony Stewart, very close friend, an enormous helmet collection.
Tony, yes, I think I've seen it on YouTube or something.
Yeah, you don't have any of your stuff.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I give everything away.
Wow. That is that's.
I found one helmet. Scott Harrington actually. Ron Burton had one of my helmets because I swapped the helmet he did me a very beautiful painting of Earnhardt Sr. and Jeff Gordon on a briefcase. And that's one of a kind. I still have it. So Ron did that for me, and I gave him one of my helmets. And I think it was in Union Jack for a long time. And then Ron...
Yeah, right here.
And then Ron sold everything. And one of the things was my helmet. And Calvin Fisher's. Calvin did the same thing. He got a painting from Ron, and he gave him one of his helmets. And Scar Harrington got them from Darren Jack. So now Harrington has both our helmets.
Wow.
But I don't care. I could give a shit about helmets or trophies or anything. But now my son Jeff, my English son, he wants stuff for the grandkids. So now anything I can find, I send it over to him.
So the trophies, you went back, to your friend's place,
Jeff, the ones that were there left. Now my son Jeff came over from England. I was over in Ireland there a couple of weeks ago, and he went over and he took them all. So he's got them back in England now.
Polish them up.
Well, good luck. trying to polish them.
It's pretty cool though when you're pulling them out again. The documentary that was very
Great stuff.
very good stuff. So
And
All
then
right.
and I wasn't into trophies that much. And I remember winning a race at Silverstone, and I would throw them to the fans. You know, I was just throwing down. So of course I threw a trophy down one day to the fan, and it fell on the ground and it broke into pieces, and everybody started booing me.
almost as good as Kyle Busch busting the guitar that Sam Bass gave him at Nashville. He goes, "Oh, I just want my whole team to have a piece of it."
Oh boy.
Well, I mean that's what they do. Rock and rollers, right? They used to break them.
On that note, we're going to wrap things up here because we're done as well. It's been great to have Tommy in here.
Thank you.
Thanks for making the trip, buddy. I know the schedules were tight, but we appreciate you coming in here.
Works out
Love
great.
hearing the stories. If you get a chance, check them out, both the documentary and the book. Well worth the read. You'll have a good time, I promise you. And that is a character right there that can wheel a car.
Crash or burn at yahoo.com. No,
I'll
no,
let
no.
you figure out how to spell
no,
it.
That's my email.
It's
Yeah,
not your real email.
CrashOrBurn.com.
We'll just leave that alone.
We're not going to say the other one.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, guys. That's the Skinny
All
on
right.
Tommy Byrne.
The
See you
Skinny.
later. Thanks for being with us here on The Skinny. This episode has been brought to you by Toyota and General Tire. For the latest in sunglasses, optical frames, accessories, and apparel, be sure to check out Fatheadz.com. That's Fatheadz with a Z. Production facilities provided by Fatheadz Eyewear Studios. All rights reserved.